Now on Sunrise and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, an international company could cause a change in tax revenue in Calhoun County. We have the numbers. As battles with federal courts intensify and global alliances weaken, President Trump marks his first 100 days back in office. Plus, one family's case makes its way to the Supreme Court after a mistake by the FBI. We'll share what justices are saying.
And the warm weather we've had all week long is going to continue for the next several days, with some along the Rio Grande possibly hitting the triple digits. But for us, we've got rain chances skyrocketing this weekend. All that in the weather coming up.
And the Ganado Indians football team held their first ever ring ceremony last night at the Inez Community Center. We'll hear from some of the players later on in sports.
You're watching 25 News Now Sunrise. Good morning, Crossroads, and happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a great midpoint to your week.
That's right. We're halfway through the week, aren't we? It's about 6:31 on your wonderful weather Wednesday.
Yes.
It's warm and humid out there again.
It is, and early voting is over, so you won't be able to vote today, tomorrow, or Friday. You have to wait till Saturday to vote, and we have the latest numbers on the turnout on our website.
That's right. And if you're going to be voting on the last day, which is this Saturday, you may want to reconsider, or at least maybe bring an umbrella, because we have rain chances. We're going to look at all that here later, because first things first, this morning, if you're tuning in with us, we've got a nice pretty sunrise underneath the cloud cover, but the cloud cover is bringing us another warm morning, starting out at 76 here in Victoria, and also a humid one, that especially thanks to the Gulf winds. 72 is our dew point, bringing humidity to 87%, which is not really enough to see fog, but we do have higher humidity values in some areas, which would be enough, but don't worry about that this morning because of the wind right now. We have sustained winds about 10 to 15 miles an hour coming out of the Gulf right now, with gusts being reported 20 to 25 miles an hour at times, providing us with mixing, so don't worry about fog, but make sure to be careful on the roads. That wind can toss your car back and forth. But the wind out of the Gulf, it's bringing us the warm temperatures. You can see all of us in the mid-70s, even on the immediate coast, y'all are in the upper 70s next to that warm Gulf water. And the rest of Texas is following suit with temperatures right now in the 70s, even some cooler 60s and 50s in the Panhandle where they just had rain. But not us. For today, if you're sending your kids out the door, it's going to be just like it is right now, and the same in the afternoon, only breezy. All those details coming up next.
The Calhoun County School Board is considering giving a major tax break to an international company. Calhoun County is one of several areas being considered for ExxonMobil's Coastal Plain project that would create a plastics plant near Lavaca Bay. Now the county is considering giving a tax break to entice them. The plant would turn natural gas into raw materials for everyday plastics. Local economy advocates say the potential benefit is significant, namely up to $671 million in taxes, along with a promise of 300 permanent jobs.
This will be a huge future driver of economic development and just change the region, change the county, change Port Lavaca.
On Tuesday, the Calhoun County ISD chose to move forward and collect more data and public opinion before eventually deciding whether or not to accept the tax break. Following the indictment of its former principal in Victoria on child sex abuse charges, the Panther Creek Consolidated ISD issued a statement. 58-year-old Kenneth Wade Wallace was arrested in Cuero on April 11th. In the statement, the superintendent said in part, the district learned of the allegations from law enforcement on April 14th and promptly placed the employee in question on administrative leave while conducting an internal investigation in accordance with district policy. Wallace is out on bond and under court order to have no contact with children. A fire damaged a building in the historic downtown Port Lavaca. Firefighters were quickly able to put out the flames in the 200 block of Main Street, containing it to the front part of the building. People familiar with the business owner who was leasing the building say the cause was an electrical issue. No one was in the building at the time and no one was hurt. Victoria police are warning about a scam making the rounds. It starts with a fake invoice emailed to a business or individual. Then a day or two later, another email shows up, this time asking for payment to a different account. And unfortunately, some people have paid it without double checking. Police say don't ever change where you send a payment unless you're absolutely sure the request is legit and actually coming from the business. And a return to his roots, President Donald Trump marked his 100th day in office with a campaign-style rally in Michigan Tuesday. Speaking for almost 90 minutes, President Trump hit on campaign themes like immigration and the economy while dismissing polling showing his approval rating is low. The president's second term has been marked with fights with federal courts and an eroding relationship between the U.S. and some of its closest global allies. Now to the case of a family fighting back after federal agents raided their home by mistake. The nation's highest court now considering how those agents should be held responsible, if at all.
The Supreme Court heard arguments yesterday over whether law enforcement can be held liable for raiding the wrong home. Back in 2017, FBI agents burst into this family's Atlanta home with flashbang grenades, mistaking it for the nearby house of a suspected gang member.
I thought someone was breaking in, and it was so chaotic that I thought they had a mission, and the mission was to kill us.
They threw me down on the floor, and they were interrogating me, and they were asking me questions.
The family is seeking restitution from the FBI. Lower courts tossed out their claims due to sweeping legal immunity for government officials. But back in 1974, Congress carved out an exception for victims of assault, battery, false imprisonment, false arrest, or abuse of process by an officer. The government denies that exception applies in this case, arguing despite the mistake, the agents never violated a government policy. Justice Neil Gorsuch not buying that.
No policy says don't break down the wrong house, the door of a house.
No, excuse me. Of course.
Don't traumatize its occupants. Really?
The plaintiffs say agents caused $5,000 in damage to their home on top of the emotional trauma.
I think it's very difficult for anyone to fully understand the true terror that having this happen to you, especially if you're an innocent person, carries with you for the rest of your life.
Justice Kavanaugh suggested the court is likely to provide a limited decision and return the case to lower courts. A ruling is expected in June. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
The Senate could vote as early as today on a resolution that would effectively block some of the president's tariffs. Co-sponsor Senator Rand Paul says the Constitution gives Congress the power to impose duties, but a law lets the president do so under, quote, unusual and extraordinary threats. Trump's executive order from April 2nd declares trade deficits rise to that level. The Senate resolution would terminate that declaration. And that leads us to your viewer poll. You can scan the QR code on your screen to take part. We want to know, do you think the resolution blocking tariffs will pass the Senate? All right, let's take a look. 15% of you say yes and 85% of you say no. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part in our viewer poll. Republicans have given themselves a July 4th deadline to pass the president's sweeping tax and spending cuts package. Speaker Mike Johnson insists he can get the House's bill passed sooner, but some GOP lawmakers worry they won't be able to solve the policy landmines within that time frame. The party is facing deep divisions on Medicaid cuts, food stamp cuts, and a new tax on vehicles. Remember, follow us on YouTube, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. The time is now 6:38 on our Wednesday morning. Here's a look at what's coming up next on 25 News Now Sunrise. The sun like you've never seen it before. A breakthrough telescope captures stunning new details of our nearest star.
President Trump marked his 100th day in office with a campaign-style rally in Michigan amid growing uncertainty around the economy. I'm Christiane Cordero in Washington with the latest coming up.
And also coming up next after the break in the short-term forecast, you heard me say it's going to be another breezy day again today. That's right. So coming up next, I'll tell you just how windy I think it'll be near you. Well, good morning, Crossroads, and happy Weather Wednesday. You're looking live in cloudy, the very same as yesterday. Cloudy, warm, and humid Cuero. Look how cloudy it is out there this morning. 74 degrees to start out the day, dew point 72, still quite high. It's something, like I said, you see in summertime, bringing the humidity to 94%, which, like I said earlier, is enough to see fog, but if you see any of it, it's going to be very light out there because we have a mixing wind blowing through us right now, and that is going to be picking up today, which we'll look at here in a second, because with humidity high at the surface and in the sky, because we got the Pacific jet stream riding over our heads, we've got a chance for rain today, and it's going to continue like that for the next several days. Daily rain chances coming away, so get excited. Today, though, it's going to be really low at 20%, and I think that 20% is going to go for a few spotty showers, and my time frame of that is going to be in the morning time, somewhere between 8 all the way to maybe 1 p.m., maybe noontime. You're going to see that right here on the future tracker here. Maybe a little bit of spotty shower activity in the morning time before that goes away by the afternoon. Here's noontime. And I think by noontime, we're going to be looking mostly cloudy, and then by 3 p.m., partly cloudy, and then by 5 p.m. time you're getting off work, then mostly sunny. But National Weather Service is thinking between 1 to 3 p.m. today is when we're going to see the rain. So if you see it at that time frame, well, they'd be right today. I was thinking the morning time. So we're going to continue to see if that happens. But another warm day I'm expecting. Low 80s already at noontime. And in the afternoon, it's another day in the mid 80s. I'm thinking 87 Victoria and in Cuero and about 84 Port Lavaca. And we're going to have more warm weather just like that coming away for the next several days. But rain chances, more importantly, to talk about. That's coming up next.
All right, Crossroads. Yesterday we had 25 News Now sports reporter Rick Robinson go to the Ganado ring ceremony, and the Ganado football team had almost all the players getting their new rings for the first time in school history again. And we had a chance to talk with some of the main stars from this past season. You probably remember Bryce Ullman being the quarterback, and Kane Hayden, Logan Burris, running back, and Austin Pena. And so all those players again were big people that we wanted to talk to afterwards to see how they felt getting those elusive rings for the first time.
I'm feeling great. I've been waiting on this day for a while now. Just ready to get that rock on my finger. So, always having a good time, joking around and stuff. So it'll definitely be my friends that I'll be thinking about and hoping that they have a good future.
How close we came as a team. It was really like a true family feel. It was like my favorite part.
I think the seniors had a big impact. They all worked very hard, and it was just a great year. It was a great year.
Probably the bond that we had with all my teammates and everybody, all the coaches, we're just one big family.
Now you can tell just from all those players, like they said, they all said this year was just a family feel. And you could tell them after they won that triple overtime game versus Stanford to win the 2A Division I state championship. And again, all those players were huge assets for the Indians, and they should be very proud of what they accomplished this past season, winning the title for the first time in school history. This is Max Williams, 25 News Now Sports.
We want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Just search for Crossroads Today Plus. President Trump marked his 100th day in office by touting decisions around immigration, trade, and government spending. The president speaking to a crowd in Michigan during his 100th day.
It was a rally pulled from the playbook of candidate Trump.
Hello, Michigan. Hello. We love you, Michigan.
Marking President Trump's 100th day back in office, a crowd of supporters in a Detroit suburb whose top employer is General Motors. It comes as automakers adjust to Trump's 25% tariffs on auto imports, expected to drive the price of a new car up by thousands of dollars within a year. But the president yesterday rolled part of those sweeping tariffs back, easing the tax on foreign auto parts used in vehicles assembled in the U.S.
If they can't make it in time because they have to do it here, otherwise they haven't, I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right?
Trump's tariffs have impacted just about every sector, triggering an uncertain economic forecast. Americans' confidence in the economy has dropped to the lowest level since the early days of the pandemic, according to new numbers from the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index. In an exclusive interview, ABC's Terry Moran asked the president about the impact of his escalating trade war with China.
It'll raise prices on everything from electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad. If you look at the European Union, it was terrible what they've done to us. Every country, almost every country in the world was ripping us off.
Small businesses like this tea shop in Michigan are bracing for rising prices. The owner says there's a limit on how much of the extra cost she can pass on to her customers.
I don't think I can charge $75 for a 50-gram bag of tea, no matter how amazing that tea is.
Trump yesterday called Amazon's founder Jeff Bezos over the company's smaller division, Amazon Hall, considering displaying the cost of tariffs at the bottom of each product. Amazon later said that was never approved and is not going to happen. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
The world's largest solar telescope has revealed a new and intense picture of the sun. This ultra-detailed image is the first taken by the new visible tunable filter. The instrument is able to build a close three-dimensional view of what's going on the sun's surface. You can see a cluster of dark sunspots near the center of the inner atmosphere, spots the size of continents. Experts say those blemishes mark areas of high magnetic activity where solar flares are likely. The time is now 6:47 on our Wednesday morning, still to come on Sunrise. Homeland Security reveals striking new deportation figures from the president's second term. All right, it's time to celebrate some birthdays. Happy birthday to my younger brother, Oscar Diego. We're so proud of you. I know you have a bright future. Love you so much. You know they're going to be partying this weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure. Happy birthday, Oscar. And also happy birthday to Wonder Woman actress Gal Gadot. The actress is turning 40 today. Happy birthday, Gal. And to see your birthday wish live on 25 News Now Sunrise, just head on over to crossroadstoday.com. Click the drop-down menu, then click the Home tab, and then you'll see Submit Your Birthday Photo.
All right, the time is now 6:47 on our Wednesday morning. Happy birthday if you're celebrating one today.
That's right, happy birthday. Or if you're celebrating this coming weekend, stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, good morning, Crossroads, and happy Weather Wednesday. I think it was safe to say it was a bit of a windy day yesterday. We had, what you're looking at right here are your max reported wind gusts over the last 24 hours, and you'll see we had a gust that topped out at about 45 miles an hour here in Victoria County, and lots of areas around the Crossroads were topping out around that high as well. Lots of us around 40 miles an hour, but it's going to be another windy day today. Not as windy as yesterday. In the morning time, not super breezy, gust up to 20 to 25 at times in the morning, but in the afternoon, they'll be gusting up to 30 to 35 miles an hour at times. Again, not as strong as it was yesterday, but that's going to lead me to today's weather poll. Today, I ask you, with it being so windy yesterday, did it help or hurt? It looks like 84% of y'all are still voting. It kept the temperatures quote unquote cooler because we were still in the 80s. But 8% of y'all, another 8% are still feeling optimistic. You said you enjoyed the sound, and another 8% are saying it blew pollen everywhere. And I can agree with that because I had some bad sniffles yesterday. But for future weather polls, go to crossroadstoday.com/vote-weather to participate. And I will always read those answers on Sunrise, and thank y'all for voting today. But if you're wondering why it's going to be breezy again for your Weather Wednesday, well, for the entire week long, we've been tracking this upper level low pressure system. You can see it right there, just over the western part of New Mexico, spinning counterclockwise, which is sending all kinds of very tall, strong thunderstorms up through North Texas, which will be transferring its way down here going into tomorrow. We're going to look at that radar here in a second, because if we zoom out over the Pacific, we've got two more low pressure systems we're going to be tracking in the next several days. Here's big low system number 1, and system number 2 is right about right here, coming in right behind the banner. Those two lows will bring us our rain chances for next week. But the first low is going to come off the mountains today, sending that line of thunderstorms, like I said, across the state. But I'm not entirely sure that's going to make its way and hold itself together by the time it gets here, because today's severe weather threat is going to be up in North Texas. Tomorrow, Thursday, it's going to be a level 1 out of 5 in our northern counties, where we have that 20% chance. But we're going to look at all that and more later on Sunrise.
In the first 100 days of President Donald Trump's second term, more than 142,000 undocumented immigrants have been deported. The Homeland Security Department released the official number on Tuesday. The data breakdown included all the federal agencies involved in repatriations. Since January 21st, Customs and Border Protection agents have deported nearly 67,000 people. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deported more than 65,000, while the U.S. Coast Guard had 371. More than 9,000 people self-deported. The World Health Organization warns the risk of measles is high in the Americas. This as a multi-state outbreak in the U.S. reaches at least 781 cases. The outbreak spans Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and possibly Kansas. Cases tied to this outbreak account for more than 80% of the total measles cases reported in the U.S. this year. The vast majority of cases are in Texas. The multi-state outbreak has sent nearly 100 people to the hospital. There are 3 confirmed deaths. None of them were vaccinated. Still to come on Sunrise, news to know before you go. Cities under siege, Russian drones strike Ukraine, continuing a pattern of attacks that lasted more than 3 years. Russian drones attacked Ukraine's Kharkiv, injuring several people late on Tuesday. Footage from the State Emergency Service of Ukraine showed responders dousing large flames from damaged buildings as residents were helped out of areas covered in rubble. In Ukraine's southeast, drones triggered fires and killed 1 person. A New Jersey federal judge ruled Mahmoud Khalil can move forward with his lawsuit. The lawful permanent resident claims he was unlawfully detained for his political views supporting Palestinian rights. The judge said he would keep jurisdiction over the case in New Jersey federal court. Khalil remains at an ICE detention facility in Louisiana. A Wisconsin judge accused of helping an undocumented immigrant avoid being arrested by immigration officials has been temporarily relieved of her duties. Tuesday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court temporarily suspended Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan while her case moves through the legal justice system. She faces 2 federal charges for obstruction and concealing an individual from arrest. President Donald Trump has modified his tariffs on the automotive industry in an effort to increase domestic production. Tuesday, Trump signed an executive order and a proclamation. This comes ahead of a new 25% tariff on imported auto parts, which goes into effect on May 3rd. The order now allows domestic car makers to get reimbursements when importing parts. The global arms race has reached a massive level last year. The world spent more than $2.7 trillion on militaries in 2024. That's a 9.4% raise and the largest number since 1988, the end of the Cold War. The biggest culprit in the U.S., nearly $1 trillion in spending last year. China came in second place, but at a much lower $314 billion. The Texas House approved a proposal asking voters to approve $1 billion in annual funding to address the state's water shortage, with the money to come from the state's sales tax. You can read the story by the Texas Tribune on crossroadstoday.com. We want to invite y'all to experience our digital streaming service, Crossroads Today Plus. You can find it on your connected TV through Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, and Android TV. Just search for Crossroads Today Plus. Now let's go ahead and get a look at that sunrise with Parker. How's it looking, Parker?
Well, this morning for your Weather Wednesday, looking pretty cloudy this morning. As you can see, looking live in Port Lavaca. Look at all those clouds out there this morning. And I'm sure you've noticed it's another warm and humid one out there right now. 79 to start of the day in Port Lavaca. Everyone on the coast is in the upper 70s. How's that for warmth and humidity? 75 dew point though. How about that for humidity? That's what I'm talking about. That's something you would see in the summertime. So apply some hairspray for today. I would highly recommend that for the humidity, but also for the winds. And the breezy winds today, gusting up to 30 knots at times. It's going to bring us some small craft advisory conditions, but one is not in effect, which I'm not sure why. The National Weather Service hasn't done that, but it's going to bring us some choppy waves in the bays, 2 to 3 feet high. Coastal waters probably seeing 4 to 5 feet high. So fishers and boaters, please be careful with that. And right on schedule, you can see we have a few spotty showers developing around the crossroads on radar, and I think it's going to continue like that for the rest of this morning time with a few spotty showers. But cloud cover will be on the decrease, warming us up to 84 in Port Lavaca, 87 I'm thinking the high in Victoria, and we're going to stay like that for the next several days with rain chances finally coming back this weekend.
All right, thank y'all for being with us this morning. Join Shauna, Dawn, Maclovio, and Max tonight for 25 News Now at 5, 6, and 10. Have a great day.